Hello, everyone. My name is Jesus Cisneros Lemus, and today's topic of discussion is gender identity and the issues with the scientific, logical, philosophical, and theological views. This tends to be a very controversial topic amongst the community in today's day. So, what determines human identity? So, first of all, there's a difference between biological sex and feelings that people tend to feel internally. Modern culture tends to view gender differently than it was viewed back in the day. Christianity tends to see it as the historical way through God's eyes, which we were created in His image, and the goal is to defend the biblical truth. How the meaning of gender has changed over the years. So at first it was a meaning of kind, sort, or class in the old French language. That was the initial grammatical classification. Then in the mid 1950s, around 1955, there was a psychological and sexologist person named John Money. He introduced what we now identify as the word gender, which could be compared to different types of genders in society, where back then, like stated, it was a kind sort of class compared to just male and female attributes. Biological sex. So chromosomes are the sexual development in the human anatomy. Then the gonads are the ones that produce hormones that differentiate in a male and a female. They both function very differently, the male reproductive organs and the female reproductive organs. It is also considered a biological phenomenon. Gender identity and gender dysphoria. There are two differences between gender identity and gender dysphoria. One leads to the other. So initially, gender identity is the internal perception of oneself, whereas gender dysphoria is the psychological distress that a human is undergoing. There are many different arguments that have been brought to this topic trying to defend gender identity and gender dysphoria. So, biologically, in some genetic mutations, there are intersex conditions where a human is born with 3 chromosomes instead of the regular XX and the XY chromosome. Not only that, the hormones tend to fizz up a little bit over the time as people age, because initially it's not really known about until a person gets older throughout age. They'll be experiencing different symptoms of a female or a male. It is not noticeable at first. People must not neglect the feelings of people undergoing a gender identity crisis, because it is important to understand that it is a chemical imbalance that we do not have enough information in today's age. It is still being researched by psychologists, psychiatrists, and scientists to understand the chemical imbalances in those individuals. The Christian view of the body. So, like I stated in the beginning, it is created in God's image. God intended to create only male and female when He first brought us upon this earth, which dates back to Adam and Eve. Not only that, the human body is seen as a temple, and we should cherish what God created us with. A fallen world and human suffering. Suffering and disorder is very common amongst humanity. It could vary from many different situations, but in this case, we're referring to gender identity. It is normal for a person to experience these differences because society deems it as a normal thing. The psychological problems are genuine because they are unsure, because when they were little, they must have gone through some experiences that changed their view of the world, and now they want to perceive themselves as someone who they really aren't. Not only that, people say that God made a mistake creating them, which that is not correct. We were brought to this world with a purpose. Just because people face adversaries in their brain does not mean that God created a mistake, because God always has a plan for everybody. Instead, for those people that have that type of mindset, they should be treated with dignity and care. Mental health and compassion. Depression, anxiety, and isolation are many things that these individuals tend to experience. We as Christians should not judge and reject those individuals because they feel some certain type of way. Instead, we should show support, love, respect, and refer them to the proper care. The Christian position is stronger because it involves biological evidence, truth, redemption, and hope, foundation of identity through biblical structures, and scientific. Brokenness in a fallen world. That is the major thing that is happening in these individuals, because sin was created at some point in history. Thank you very much for tuning into my presentation.